Good morning, everybody. Hope your coffee's as good as mine. We've got quite a bit to cover today, so fill your cups, grab your notes. Good morning, everybody. I do apologize for getting that notification out late. I actually set it up for the wrong time, but got it fixed, got it going. Everybody should be shuffling in soon. Soon. So let's go ahead and start with an interesting story that's been breaking. Not everybody here in the audience, I know my audience, they're not huge sports fans, but this is really something that I think even the non sports fans will be interested in. Let's talk about Wolverines football for a second. College football is by far one of the most popular sports there is on the planet. It is a multi-billion-dollar industry. Um, and in college football, the Michigan Wolverines are consistently one of the better teams um, i- anywhere. They play in the Big Ten, and their coach is Jim Harbaugh. Jim Harbaugh is one of those celebrity coaches. He is known as a winner, and that may be changing quickly. Quickly. There's a scandal involving Wolverine football that has been unfolding over the last week or two that is going to end the Jim Harbaugh era. Let's be honest about this, folks. Jim Harbaugh is going to be out as as coach at Michigan. They'll suspend him when all of this gets fleshed out. They're going to suspend him, and he'll resign. They've already Michigan has already retracted a contract offer that they had made to him, and this is blowing up. This is a huge scandal in the world of college football. For the folks that aren't really into football, let me explain the importance of what this is. Play calling is a massive part of the game. You have defensive coordinators, offensive coordinators that will watch their opponents. They will craft their offenses mid game to compensate for strengths and weaknesses in their opponents. They will. It is massive. Play calling is a massive part of the game. And if you're what play calling is it's the signals that coaches give their players to control what their players do on the field. Michigan has been accused for some time now of cheating, just out and out cheating. See, it's one thing to watch your opponents. It's one thing to watch their films. It's one thing to prep for an opponent and their strengths and weaknesses and whatnot. But it's quite another thing to intercept their play calling and cheat. That is beyond the pale. That is not competitiveness. That is cheating. That is intercepting your opponent's communications. And that's not what football is about. And somebody put a great comment up there. I hope I can find it where they were talking about the Astros. Yes, the Astros got caught cheating, banging on a garbage can to signal to their team what was going on. But This is actually much more complex, much more this is just disgusting. As somebody who loves football, this is heartbreaking to see, and it s involves this guy by the name of Connor Stallions. This guy right here. He's an analyst for the Michigan Wolverines. Analysts are the people that study your opponents. They're the ones that prep reports for coaches about teams that they're facing so that the coaches can get with their individual coaches. You've got your special teams coaches, your linebacker coaches, you've got a whole subset of coaches. And what these analysts do is they provide an idea to the coaches what they're going to be facing so that they can prep their teams, so they can get ready for what is going to happen this Saturday. Well, Connor Stallions went too far. He was busted buying tickets to all of their opponents' games, and he's been suspended, by the way. Um, Buying tickets to all their opponents' games that all the teams that they're going to face, paying people to attend those games, and he would buy tickets at the 50-yard line high enough that those people could get a direct line of sight into the coaches and what they were doing, and he would pay people to film the coaches on the sidelines so that he knew what their hand signals meant. Now, like I said, people have known for a long time that Michigan's been cheating. I mean, TCU last year creatively put that to work for themselves uh, in the playoffs. I believe the semifinals game between TCU and the Wolverines. TCU effectively used this by putting out fake hand signs, fake signals to throw off the Wolverines defense. I mean, this is how common in knowledge this is. They even knew how they were doing it. The ball handlers, the Michigan ball handlers, would stand with a ball in their hands, and if the opposing coach called a running play, they would take the ball and they would hold it in their right hand, and the Michigan coaching staff knew that a running play was coming. If they were going to, if their opponent called a passing play, they would hold it in their left hand. It was just blatantly obvious. The NCAA did nothing about it. There have been some minor investigations, but the celebrity of Jim Harbaugh was always in opposition to really making a big, full blown investigation into this. They would look into it here and there, but we can't really prove anything. Well, that's over, folks. They have had people that Connor Stallions hired confess that they actually went to games. He paid him a couple $100, that he went to games and filmed these coaches and their play calls to steal them for Michigan, which in and of itself is bad. But that's not the end of it, folks. This is really amazing. This is Connor Stallions. This is a picture widely believed to be Connor Stallions disguising himself as a coach for Central Michigan University, and you see he's got a tag on there that says VB on it. That's visitors bench. He actually it appears here that and people went back and pulled this from the actual broadcast. You see this is from the broadcast. You can see the score down at the bottom. Um, have been going back and finding Connor there on the sidelines. He's got the opposing team's uh, polo on, disguised himself as a coach for the opposing team, and this is a huge deal, folks. This is massive. This will result in massive fines when they flesh this out. This just broke 2 days ago. So the NCAA is doing an investigation on it. Uh, Everybody is certain that is Connor Stallions because the Chippewas, the bench, the Central Michigan University Chippewas, would have come out immediately and said, "Oh no, that's Joe. We know who that is. That's Joe. He works for us." No, everybody is saying that's Connor Stallions. You can tell by the face. The sunglasses aren't much of a disguise. He's wearing the opposing team's coaching uniform, has slipped in, and it's such a big deal. The security on this is they only print 50 of those badges, and they hand them out to individuals that are part of the coaching staff, and you have to have one of those badges because for security reasons, to keep people from stealing hand signs and whatnot, and cheating, the area on the sidelines there is reserved only for the opposing team and their staff. You cannot cross this around and get into that is a violation of NCAA rules. And now they have Connor Stalions pictures, uh, and it's a real shame, folks. Michigan was having a dream season. They are undefeated. It really looked like they may win. May have won the championship this year. 250 KM said, "Who did he pay for that badge?" Actually, it is looking like right now that he just had a badge made because the Chippewas have said, Central Michigan University Chippewas have said that, we've accounted for all our badges, and they're doing a full-fledged investigation in this. And I have to tell you, it's sad. It really is sad because you have a team. The Wolverines have always been considered a really good team. These kids, their reputation is on the line. Their efforts, everything they did, all their hard work is going to be completely trashed because all of their victories are going to be suspect. All of them. And that's what you get when you cheat, folks. That's what you get when you cheat. Greg Watkins says, "Old silver cheating seems to be the way of our world now. Look at what the Republicans are trying to do to win an election. A-holes." Yeah, yeah. It really is sad. That's why the NCAA has to come down on this hard. Has to come down on this really hard. And speaking of coming down on things really hard, that's a good segue into our next story, which is leading to our main story. I promised people that their heads would explode. We're gonna get there. This isn't it, but this is the segue into it. This is Alexander Shepard. He was at the January 6th insurrection. He was given a slap on the hand. He's got a post here that he just put out because he's surrendering himself. "Today I turned myself in to federal prison for the 19-month sentence. 19 months. Tried to overthrow a government. He got 19 months in jail. Not 10 years of hard labor. No, 19 months. I received for peacefully protesting." Yeah, did that look real peaceful to you at the January 6th did that look real peaceful to you, or did it look like they were beating the shit out of cops and smashing windows and pissing on the floor and smearing crap on our Capitol and tossing the offices and stealing? And that didn't look real peaceful to me. The guy, they brought zip ties for you never know when you're going to need to zip tie a hostage, right? I mean, that's peaceful. That's just peaceful, ain't it? For peacefully protesting inside the People's House on January 6th. It is the People's House, and you violated it. "I was 21 years old at the time, and I have been fighting these charges for the last 3 years." Well, why didn't you plead guilty? You're guilty. "It is my great honor to be held hostage as a political prisoner in these United States of America. Goodbye for now. This is this jackhole. This you know, this is Alexander Shepard. This is what happens when you do not address terrorism with strength. That is what happens when you don't address terrorism with strength. You end up with people that, well, I'm no regret, no doubts. What do you think he's going to do? What do you think he's going to do? I mean, you think he's just going to learn his lesson? You think he's just going to stop? Did it discourage? Yeah, old silver. Thank you. That's exactly what I was about to say. That was a failed deterrence. Failed. And it's not the first time we've dealt with terrorism and failed. It isn't. I want to show you something. I really want to show you something. Let me pull this up. It wasn't part of my original show, but I think you should see it. If you just do a search for a list of aircraft hijackings, I don't use Wikipedia for sources, but if something's just a list of something and I don't need a comprehensive list or anything like that, Wikipedia is fine. Wikipedia is fine. Here's a list of hijackings. Just do a search for a list of hijackings. Go to Wikipedia. You can see this for yourself. Do it. I really hope you do this after the show. Here's the 1960s, the 1970s. Wow, 1970s. There was a lot of hijackings. 1980s, 1990s. And then suddenly here, when you get to the 2000s, starts to be fewer and fewer and fewer and almost none in the 2010s, and they're all in Russia because Russia doesn't have any security. But they're almost none. I mean, it dries up to almost nothing. We're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about how you treat terrorists and why. Right now, there is there's a protest going on. And you have some very kind-hearted, well-meaning Jewish folks shutting down a highway in Durham, North Carolina. And their protest is calling for a ceasefire in Israel. I am going to make the argument to you, and I want you to stick with me because I want to hear what you think about my argument. That ceasefire now should be hashtag ceasefire now should actually be hashtag ceasefire no. And I bring receipts. I bring receipts. Why did we have so many hijackings? Young folks, y'all don't really understand that. Y'all don't understand hijackings. Y'all didn't grow up like we did. I'm old enough that they taught us things. They would take us aside in school and teach us things. They taught us to hide under our desk if nuclear bombs were going off around our school. Really, I mean, I know young folks are like, nah, no, really, yeah. They taught us. Talk to the people in the audience there. They'll tell you. Talk to the folks in the audience there. Um, bye. Talk to the folks in the audience there. They'll tell you. We used to have drills where we would hide under our desks, hide in the hallways in our schools for nuclear explosion. They also told us that, if you're in a hijacking, and they would tell us this because hijackings were now so frequent when we were young that they actually thought they needed to tell us what to do. They would tell you, "Cooperate, cooperate." That's what they would tell us to do. Do whatever the terrorist says, just get through it. And as a result of that, the terrorists were very successful. They were very successful. Not always. I mean, you had the Sabina hijacking where Palestinian terrorists, and that's what we used to call them, Palestinian terrorists, hijacked an airplane and landed it at Ben Gurion Airport with a list of demands, started hurting people, and the Israeli commandos. You see the guy here on the left wearing the white mechanic's outfit, the mechanic's coveralls here. That's Ehud Barak, became prime minister of Israel. Let me blow that up for you so that you can. The guy here on the left, that's Ehud Barak. That guy didn't have bone spurs. He didn't have bone spurs. And Benjamin Netanyahu, which I always have to lead with the caveat that I don't like Benjamin Netanyahu. I want him removed from office. I think he's corrupt. What he's trying to do with the Supreme Court in Israel is corrupt. I always have to prove that he was in this raid. He was a commando in this raid. He was served under Ehud Barak. He was shot in the shoulder. Benjamin Netanyahu was shot in the shoulder during this raid to free these hostages. Then a few years later, in '76, there was another one, and you could tell by that list there were tons of hijackings that occurred in this era. Another hijacking happened, and there's a movie about it if you'd like. It's called Raid on Entebbe. If you'd like to go see the movie about it, it's not 100% accurate, but it's close enough. This is Yoni Netanyahu. This is Benjamin Netanyahu's brother. He was killed in that raid to free those hostages. And at the time, that was considered out there, man, because the standard procedure was don't fight terrorists. Don't fight them. Just let them have whatever they want. That was the American policy. Israel said, "No, you can't. You can't." And it was the American policy all the way up until 2001. And we all know what happened in September 11th of 2001. And it changed terrorism forever. Flight 93. We know what happened with the other flights flying into the World Trade Center and then one into the Pentagon. There was a fourth one that was supposed to fly into the Capitol building, Flight 93. On Flight 93, the passengers were making phone calls when their plane was hijacked. They were making phone calls to their family members to tell them they love them, and they were told what was going on, and they decided to fight back. They knew they were gonna die. The people making phone calls knew they were gonna die. They gathered up enough people to fight back, and they fought back. The terrorist that was flying the plane then nosed the plane in downward until it hit the ground, and then they all died. But their bravery changed terrorism forever. See, hijacking used to be the most popular form of terrorism. It got a lot of media coverage. The idea of it was just terrifying that you were in a plane. People were scared of flying anyways. It was easy to do because, people don't realize airports, when my dad used to travel when I was a kid, we'd all go to the airport. And again, talk to the folks in the chat about this. The airport was a cool place. It was. People got dressed up to go. My dad put a suit on every time he would travel. Used to fly to Southeast Asia a lot. He was worked for the government. I remember him going TDY, and we would all go as a family just to go stand there and wave goodbye. Plane spotters, plane watchers used to do it from inside the airport. You could walk right up right up to the gangway. The only thing you couldn't do was board the plane. That's the way airports used to be. They were really cool places. They stunk like hell because there used to be ashtrays fricking everywhere. People would sit there and drink booze right at the terminal. I'm not even kidding. Out of glass glasses, man. They would sit there and just, I mean, right there at the terminal. It was something else, man. Life was very different. Young people, these folks with the ceasefire now movement, they don't understand what we saw happen. They didn't live through the Lockerbie bombing. They didn't live through 3 nutballs hijacked a plane and threatened to fly it into Oak Ridge, the nuclear research facility in Oak Ridge. They didn't live through those things. It's not part of their memory. And they didn't understand the evolution of what happened because after September 11th, we learned something. We learned that Israel was right. You cannot negotiate with terrorists. The minute a terrorist tries to take your plane, you have to fight. And that is the advice they give you now. They do not tell you to cooperate anymore. That's changed. Yeah, Greg Edmond. Exactly. We have armed sky marshals that fly on our planes now. And thanks to this idiot, we have massive amounts of airport security. One guy changed changed airport security forever. This moron right here, Richard Reed, made a homemade bomb in a shoe, tried to set it off on a plane. The passengers fought back. This was in December, right after the September 11th attacks, and the passengers fought back. They did. And the point of what I'm trying to tell you is terrorism can change. We have an entire generation that don't know hijackings. And I know to us older folks, again, I want this to be a conversation, not just me running through a monologue. You folks in the comments, you remember hijackings. There's a lot of people that are my age in the comments. Y'all remember hijackings. These young folks don't. They don't. Anybody under the age of 30, for the most part, has no idea what a hijacking is or why we have this insane airport security. They don't know why the PLO bothers us, which is now Fatah. Why the PLO changed its name. And how terrorism changed because we changed. We changed. People say that. People say, "Oh, well, you can't destroy Hamas. It'll always be there." No, terrorism can change. We have seen it. We've done it. The people of Flight 93 showed us the way. They did. How many people did they save beyond themselves by showing us that you fight? You fight. And right now we're seeing something really awful and really uncomfortable and really runs the counterintuitive runs counterintuitive to our nature. You know what happened on Flight 93 runs counterintuitive to our nature. We were told forever, and please, in the comments, confirm for me. Were we not told over and over again, if you are in a hijacking, cooperate? Do you remember this? We're not told that anymore. Please go to the Wikipedia page and take a look at that list of hijackings and see how it's all but gone away. It's one of the rarest of unicorns now because we changed. Well, folks, we're seeing something change. And I want you to think for a minute about how uncomfortable it is. Because I guarantee you, for the folks on Flight 93, that had to be terrifying. When people stood up, the terrorists had box cutters, razor knives. When people stood up and started fighting, it was bloody, it was loud. I don't know if you've ever been involved in violence before. I have. You can take a look at I've got scars on my forehead, face. I got my mouth droops a little bit on one side. I've thrown hands before. It's hard to watch. I'm not talking about MMA or boxing where we're all mentally prepared to watch a competition. I'm talking about two people trying to kill each other. If you've never witnessed that or been involved in that, I have to tell you, uh, it's you don't want to. I'll just say that you don't want to. This is why I am more lenient on cops than most people of my political persuasion, because cops see this firsthand over and over and over again. Violence is ugly. It is. And it's terrifying. And it takes you back to your basic. If you don't think that we evolved from apes, you watch people around a fight. They look like a bunch of screaming chimps. We devolve into our baser instincts. And that's what happened inside that airplane. And there were people on that airplane that did not want that to happen. They wanted everybody to just comply. There's no need for violence. There's no need for people to die. Believe me, in that airplane, there were people that really sincerely felt that way out of a goodness in their heart. They weren't bad people. It was humanity in them. They didn't want this, but it happened. It happened. In hindsight, it was one of the best things that ever happened to us. As awful as it was. It really was. It changed terrorism. You cannot know if you're a young person. You cannot know how much that changed our lives. Nobody gets on an airplane anymore being afraid that someone's gonna hijack it. That's an old person problem, like me, I look around. I still, when I get on a plane, look around and see who's on it with me. When I see a Trumper get loud, I get ready to fight, you know? Young folks, you don't know that feeling. And I will tell you this, as awful as everything is in Gaza right now, it is changing terrorism forever. The same way Flight 93 all but ended hijackings. What is going on in Gaza, as awful and horrible and terrible as it is changing terrorism forever. Because before the ground operations in Gaza began, before the Israelis again showed us the way, Terrorism had a simple rule: you commit atrocities, then you go hide behind your people, and they can't touch you. The world won't let them. And Israel said, no, last time was the last time, never again, never again. And this will, as horrible as it is, and as disgusting as it is to your ears to hear me say it, and I know it when I say it, because it because people are dying. But at the other end of this, terrorism as we know it will die with it, because there will no longer be people saying you have to appease them. Just like that January 6th protester was running his mouth because he got a slap on the hand because of appeasement. They wanted to appease Republicans here. They didn't want to make the sentences too bad. That's why they did what they did. That's why that guy has learned nothing. That's why nothing has changed. And we are going to have this fight again. Yeah, Reba, the Oklahoma City bombing. We learned nothing from that. These militias tried to kidnap the governor of Michigan a couple years ago. Not, you could measure it in months. They tried to kidnap the governor of Michigan. They learned nothing. These right-wing terrorists learned nothing. But Israel is showing us the way. You cannot allow this to continue. If you allow it to continue, if you have guardrails and they don't, they will do it again and again and again. And Hamas's leaders have come out and said they intend to do this again and again and again. And it is, folks. I am with you. You know, that guy that I'm unfollowing, I'm leaving this. I get it. I get it. I'm not unfeeling. You know, I've shed the tears. I've cried looking at I love children. I do. And seeing what's happening, what Hamas has created, and what the Israelis are having to do is torture. It is torture watching this. But I promise you on the other side of this, it will be a better world because every terrorist organization will know there is no place you can hide. The tactic of being brutal and hiding behind civilians will no longer work. We have an update in northern in Syria, north of Israel. Thank you, Carmen Cross. I appreciate it. I don't come here to lie to you. I come here to tell you what I see is the truth. And if you disagree, I want to hear it. That's why we're a community here, and you're incredibly intelligent people. If I'm wrong, tell me I'm wrong. We've got an update in Syria. Over the last month or so, we've had 24 attacks on U.S. troops, and as everybody's aware, President Biden has put the carrier group, Gerald R. Ford carrier group, and the Eisenhower carrier group in the Mediterranean, and they have been striking Hezbollah targets in Syria. Well, Putin has jumped in on that one, and he has moved the SA-22 Pantsir anti-aircraft system. He's sent Wagner. Remember, last week we talked about Pavel Prigozhin taking over Wagner. Well, his first action has been to send Wagner into Wagner already operates in Syria, but he sent specific Wagner troops into Syria to train Hezbollah and work alongside Hezbollah in running these anti-aircraft systems that they're moving in and handing them over to Hezbollah. And a lot of folks hear Hezbollah, they think it's some, they're not Hamas. They are not. Hezbollah is not Hamas. They are very different. Hezbollah trains as an army. They're not just terrorists. They train as an army. They're the most well-equipped non-state army in the world. They are. They're actually more powerful than Wagner. Um, this is leading us into a direct conflict between why this is important is it's leading us into a direct conflict again where our troops will be killing Wagner Russian mercenaries working for the Russian government. This has happened before. If you It's happened before in Iraq. If you Google the Battle of Conoco Fields, Wagner mercenaries tried to take a refinery that was protected by us, and our troops repelled them, actually decimated the Wagner troops. Prigozhin was famously um, quoted as saying his commander, he was talking to his commander, getting reports from the field, and his commander told him, they're destroying us. And he says, well, what's Prigozhin asked, well, what's their troop strength? How are they defeating us? What are they doing? He says, it's two guys in an office with a coffee pot calling in airstrikes. And that's what's been happening. That's why Wagner has been training with the Panzer system. That's why they're moving this, because our air superiority uh, it is something that Wagner cannot match. Fortunately, we have the technology to defeat this. Um, we're going to continue striking targets in Syria. Pardon me. That's what's going to be happening. I just want you to be well aware that military operations. A lot of people don't even know we have troops in Syria. We do have troops on the ground in Syria fighting next to the Kurds, protecting the Kurds, hitting Hezbollah targets. That's been going on since the Syrian revolution started. There is a civil war going on inside Syria right now. Well, folks, we've also had Lauren Boebert poke her idiotic head up. I want to play a video for you. You guys are gonna just love it. The fact that this woman is a congressman is just amazing.
Colorado's West Slope used to have a booming energy production economy. Unfortunately, we've been regulated into poverty in Colorado's 3rd district. I remember.
I want you to keep that in mind, what you just said there. They've been regulated into poverty.
When I owned a small business, roughnecks used to come into my restaurant, and I knew that it was going to be a good, successful, profitable day because I had mud on my floor to clean up. But through regulations, there was no more mud to clean up on nearly any of our business floors, and many businesses shuttered forever. Colorado's West Slope used to have a booming energy production economy.
Oh, well, that's weird. What she's saying there is that regulation has killed the American oil industry, and that businesses are suffering because of it. That's weird. See, I happen to live in an area that, the two major employers here are oil and gas and timber. I live in a forest that's on top of an oil field. I happen to know a little bit about it. Regulation has killed our oil production to the point that, oh yeah, we're the largest oil producer in the world. We're the largest oil producer in the world. You can look this up yourself. That's from the US Energy Information Administration. We are, let me say it again, the largest oil producer in the world. We produce 21% of the world's oil. Yeah, we haven't been regulated out of business, folks. We haven't. Business is booming. Business is booming. Those yeah, what Dipstick Barbie doesn't understand there is you're not always drilling. You drill, you cap a well, and you pump oil. And after the pump jacks are in place, there's only one guy that shows up out there. It's a maintenance guy. All you roughnecks move on. You know, when roughnecks drill a well, they don't sit there and babysit it. They move on. So yeah, all the guys that were drilling wells near your restaurant and putting mud on your floor have moved on to other jobs. And anybody that works in the oil industry will tell you it is feast or famine. They're either drilling or they aren't. But that has nothing to do with our oil production because those wells never stop producing. They decline in production. They do over time. But yeah, that has nothing to do with the manpower and the people that work. But she's an idiot, and her followers are idiots. And they say things like this. And that is a major problem. Emergency Remedial Truth says, uh-oh, somebody took that down. Never got to read it. Sorry, Emergency Remedial Truth. Says, I want to take Boebert out for dinner and show. All right, then judge me if you Oh my God. That is funny. For the cost of a play, you can get a handy. But yeah, folks, she's a congresswoman. She's our one of our leaders, telling people in Chicago, one, that they're in poverty when our economy is leading the world. We're the number one economy in the world. Business is booming. We had almost 5% GDP growth last quarter. But here we have a Republican congressman telling her district on the floor of our house that they're in poverty. And they're in poverty because of regulation. No, not at all. Regulation hasn't slowed anything. Anything. Business is booming. Sherry Foster, either way, we can't just do nothing while people are getting killed. Um, you can. You can. You can feel bad. It's a tragedy. It's a damn tragedy. But really, what are you going to do? I mean, you can go on social media and talk. You can do that. You can support, Egypt has opened finally, due to pressure from the Biden administration, Egypt has finally opened the Rafah Gate in southern Gaza. You can support those refugees. That's a good thing to do. Just be mindful that most Palestinian charities, the money ends up going into the pocket of Hamas. So I would be selective on how you do that. But yeah, support those refugees that are moving out of Gaza. Do that. That's a good thing. Let's talk a little bit about Tommy Tuberville for a minute. Tommy Tuberville is in some deep trouble. His staffers, Politico, did some great journalism and got a copy of a memo that a Tommy Tuberville staffer put out. See, Tommy Tuberville, as has been blocking military promotions. And that's a problem, people. That is a problem. Not just in how effective our military is, but he is, for his own damn idiocy, his support of white supremacists. You know, he claims that it's about abortion. It's not about abortion. It's not. It's the military has started to root white supremacists out from his ranks. He came out and ham-handedly, you know, stuck his foot in his mouth and said, "Well, I call white supremacists people." I mean, he said that. He said that. They're people. And then the Republican strategist got a hold of him and said, "You can't say that. You can't say that. You got to say it's about abortion. You got to say it's about abortion." Exactly, Terry McGuire. It's about control. It's about a senator trying to play president. He is not president. He does not control those policies. He is one part of a legislature. That's it. That's all he is. He is one person in a legislature. But he has decided that, you know, with him and Rand Paul, they're going to shut our government down, because that's really what this is about. See, he can't stop these people from being promoted, but there are 378 of them. What he can do is force them all to be promoted in individual votes. Folks, I don't know if you know how long it takes to hold a floor vote, but if you did all 378 individual promotions as a floor vote, that is all the Senate could do for the next 3 months. He would effectively shut the US Senate down for 3 months. That is the goal. That is his goal. That's Rand Paul's goal. That's the Republicans in the House goal. You know, Joe Biden has been killing it with legislation. Our economy is booming, people. And Joe Biden has been killing it. So their goal is, going into this election year, to shut down our government, prevent any more legislation from going through, to try to stop Biden wins. And that's what Tuberville is doing here. He's trying to stop the military from rooting out white supremacists. This has nothing to do with abortion. Nothing. But he's using them. He's boosting their profile. And he just had one of his staffers, a guy by the name of Stephen Stafford. Again, kudos to Politico for getting their hands on this memo, is sending memos out to every major anti-abortion group, encouraging them to put memos and statements out saying that they will primary any Republican that opposes Tuberville's block. Because Haiku says Republicans would chop us off at the knees to prove that we can't walk. Amen. Exactly. Exactly what this is about. They would chop you off at the knees and then attack you for not being able to, you know, run marathons. That's exactly what Republicans do. And you have the staffer by the name of Stephen Stafford, who has gone out, sent memos out to all of these abortion activists, which are really just Republican political operatives, is all they really are, to try to threaten members of the Republican Party, because we have, so far as of the count today, 10 Republicans that have voiced their opinion, their willingness to vote with Democrats to change Senate rules to end this block. And right now, you've got the turtle raging to try to stop this, to try to end this block, because it serves no one but the anarchist caucus in the Republican Party that wants to shut our government down. We've got Senator Dan Sullivan. I got a video that I want you to see. He's a Republican from Alaska. This is from the Biden-Harris HQ. That's their campaign Twitter account. If you're not following it, you really should.
By the way, Xi Jinping is watching this.
All right, here you go. Here's Dan Sullivan from Alaska.
By the way, Xi Jinping is watching this right now going, I can't believe they're not letting these guys command. I'm scared to death of subs. He's loving this. So is Putin. They're loving it. How dumb can we be, man? By the way, Xi Jinping is watching this right now going, I can't believe.
You had Dan Sullivan. You had Joni Ernst. I won't play her video. I can't stand the woman. She's like nails on a chalkboard. But she's come out and given a floor speech. And again, you've got Republicans that are moving over to vote for Democrats, which is really just blowing up the equilibrium of power that these money groups have all built into the Republican system, and they are in full panic mode. But it's going to be fun to watch, folks. It's going to be fun to watch. And over the next few days, we may see a major change in Congress. We had Secretary Pete on the Late Show last night. Great performance. Great performance. Gave a very touching comment on family.
When we last talked, Mike Johnson was not Speaker of the House. Now Mike Johnson is Speaker of the House, and his record on LGBTQ issues is, what's the word, awful. So how do you work with a guy who argued that same-sex relations are, quote, the dark harbinger of chaos and sexual anarchy that could doom even the strongest republic?
Look, I'll work with anybody who can help us get good transportation available to the American people. But I don't know, maybe we'll just have him over, because our little house isn't that far from the Capitol. And if he could see what it's like when I come home from work and Chasten's bringing the kids home from daycare or vice versa, and one of us is getting the mac and cheese ready, and the other one's microwaving those little freezer meatballs that are a great cheat code if you got toddlers and you got to feed them quickly, and they won't take their shoes off, and one of them needs a diaper change. Everything about that is chaos, but nothing about that is dark. That's the love of God is in that household.
CBS just shared that on their account on Twitter. Another great one to follow, folks. And he just nails it on the head. Pete Buttigieg just talking like a human being. You know, it's such a terrific difference, you know, just holding each up. What you hear out of Mike Johnson and his just crazy sounding, scary, theocratic garbage. You know, his wife running conversion therapy programs where they just abuse people, versus Pete Buttigieg, where the rubber meets the road. This is a family. We're a family. There's nothing dark about this. It's just a family. It's kids, you know, living their best lives. We're living our best lives. And that's the difference between us and Republicans. And I have to tell you, there's been a lot of disagreement on our side over the last little bit. Not everybody's going to agree with what I say. But one thing that we can all agree on is the reason we are who we are, and why I always say we are better than Republicans, is because our hearts, because we want to govern and lead from our hearts. We do. We just care. We care. And not everything can come from our hearts. Not every decision can be what we want. But every decision should be colored by what's inside our hearts. It should. It should. Well, folks, we are out of time. I would hope to do a long roundtable, but I just talked too long. I just talked too long, and I'm sorry. But we will do it on Sunday. I promise you. I have no time limits on Sunday. We will have a great, in-depth, long discussion. I want to hear what you have to say. I want to know what you have to say. I intentionally did not do the Trump kids testimony because I wanted it all to be out and done and really take a look at it, not just getting the talking points. So we'll talk about that on Sunday and what that means for Trump going forward. I know that Eric just gave us a great clip, a great clip, and we'll talk about that more on Sunday. But again, it's been wonderful talking with you folks. Have a great weekend. Enjoy. We've got Tony coming up. Texas Paul out.